Is there something wrong with having a dual personality? Seeing yourself as two types of people, focusing and committing yourself to one type of mission or one type of goal, one type of passion, and then having another? Obviously not. But let's take a look at a story that took place in the Bible, in the book of Kings, story of Elijah the prophet, the famous debate on Mount Carmel. Now, this is when the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel were split. The two tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and part of the tribe of Levi were in the south of Israel, and the rest of the tribes were up north, and they had their own kingdom. Now, in the north, there was an epidemic of idol worship where they were serving this idol known as the Baal. It was a terrible epidemic where so many Jews were caught into this terrible idol worship. And Elijah the prophet's goal was to put an end to it once and for all. So he arranged a debate on Mount Carmel where he invited the prophets of the Baal to bring a sacrifice, and he would bring a sacrifice to God. Now, this was an exception because once the Holy Temple was built, you were not allowed to bring a sacrifice outside of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. However, this was one exception that God gave Elijah the prophet permission to do so. And on Mount Carmel, they would each prepare their sacrifice, and whichever one was able to draw fire down from heaven would be the winner. That was the debate. And of course, the prophets of the Baal did all their tricks and all their mischief, and nothing worked. And Elijah the prophet, with one prayer towards the afternoon, was answered by God, and his sacrifice was accepted, and the Jewish people all declared, God is the Lord, and the debate was concluded, and the prophets of the Baal were done away with, and it definitely was a turning point in the ending of this type of idol worship. But I want to turn to something specific that Elijah the prophet said to the Jewish people who were watching the debate and sort of participating to see who's going to win. Elijah the prophet used a certain language that is very puzzling. Here's what he said. I'm going to first say it in Hebrew, and then I'm going to translate. He said, Ad masai atem peischem al shnei seifim. For how long will you open up on both sides? For how long will you be on both sides of the fence? What's the problem? What's the problem with that? Well, shouldn't he have said, for how long are you going to rebel against God and worship idols and worship the Baal? Like, you're rebelling against the first and second commandment. Shouldn't that be Elijah the prophet's concern, and Elijah the prophet's reprimanding the Jewish people as to stop this idol worship? Why did he use this language of, for how long are you going to be on both sides of the fence? And the explanation that is given by several of the commentaries is there was a problem Elijah the prophet had with these individuals specifically. But it's a lesson to the rest of us about the importance of aspiring for higher and greatness. What's the problem? It's the idea of being two-faced. For Elijah the prophet, he said, if you're serving God, serve God. If you're serving the Baal, serve the Baal. Don't do both. Once again, why was he saying that instead of just telling them to stop worshiping idols against the commandments of God? So the problem of being a bothy, the problem of being on both sides of the fence, is that you never give yourself a chance to truly become better and to truly aspire for better things. What do I mean by that? So, very often in life, we do things that, we do a lot of good things, and then we also do some things that we're not so proud of. But because we do the good things, we write off the bad things as if, it's no big deal. In other words, okay, this is the good me and this is the bad me. The famous story of Aristotle, who preached morals and ethics, and he was caught by his students in a compromising, unethical position. And what was his answer to his students? He said, what you saw there with me, doing something unethical and immoral, you could use your imagination of what it was. That wasn't me. That wasn't the true Aristotle that you know. That wasn't the teacher that you have come to respect. That was somebody else. What's the problem with that? This is what Elijah the prophet was tackling. The problem is that as long as you give yourself the excuse, or you sanctify the fact that whatever you're doing bad is not so bad because you have the other side, then you're never really giving yourself a chance to improve. There's a reason why they say that if you hit rock bottom, that's when you're actually going to start changing your life around, is because as long as you have the other side of the fence to fall back on, to say, hey, I'm really a good guy because I really do all these good things, so the bad things that I do aren't so bad. As long as you're living in that type of mentality, then you're never allowing the bar to be raised and never allowing the aspirations of who you really could be and who you really should be to actually take effect, because you always have this excuse or this answer as to what you believe is good enough versus the negative the negative traits that you might have. So what Elijah the prophet was saying is, if you're going to serve the Baal, go ahead and serve the Baal, because it's at some point the truth is going to come out and you're going to turn around. You're going to realize how vain this idol worship is, and you're going to come back and return to God. But as long as you're telling yourself that you're actually serving God as well, in addition to serving the Baal, like the Jewish people in the desert who served the golden calf and they thought they were serving God as well, then you're negating the opportunity, or you're limiting the opportunity to realize the wrong and the vain in the actions of idol worship, and you're always going to fall back on that you're also serving God, so I'm also good. So what Elijah the prophet was trying to accomplish is a reality check with them, that if you're doing something wrong, own it, but don't bless it. Don't sanctify it and saying, well, because I'm doing so much good stuff, so the bad stuff, are okay, I could actually live with it, or, because it's the cost of doing business. It's just part of the, the full picture of who I am, and it's okay. The idea of owning it is by saying, listen, the negative that I'm doing is inexcusable. I'm human. I'm not perfect. So yes, that is true. But I'm not going to justify it just because I have the other side of the fence too. In fact, I'm going to come fully to this side to fix and to turn around that energy that's right now being invested in negative things and turn it around to the positive. What does this mean for us in reality? We can never, ever bless or sanctify the negative traits that we have. If we do something wrong, it doesn't mean we should feel depressed and we should decide to go down a spiral of doom and gloom because this is what we did and this is who we are. But at the same time, we never convince ourselves, well, it's not so bad, I did it, this happened and whatever the excuses are. Because once you make excuses, you limit and you almost close the door on the possibility of overcoming it and becoming better and transforming that energy into positivity. As soon as you own it and you don't call it for anything else that it is, other than pure negative, a very, very bad thing. For example, if somebody is unfortunately involved in infidelity, right? Let's say they're cheating on their partner or on their spouse. So the moment they have an excuse in their head that, well, because of whatever excuse they might come up with, the moment you have that excuse, you're basically blessing yourself. You're sanctifying the fact that whatever you're doing is okay, even though it's not. But you're using your subconscious, or you're using your brain techniques to justify the negativity because of whatever excuse you come up with. The moment you accept the fact that whatever it is 100% wrong, it doesn't mean that you won't necessarily do it. But it means that you're never going to accept it as the status quo, as the norm. You're always going to hold it accountable in yourself and force yourself at some point to turn it around. And that's what Elijah the prophet was saying, is that if you're going to serve the Baal, go serve the Baal. Do it 100%. Just go to the full, to rock bottom, because I know you're going to turn around eventually. But as long as you're holding on to the other half as well, you're slowing down the process and you're limiting yourself from actually turning yourself around. So whenever we have something in our life that we need to change, a bad habit, a bad character, a bad thing that we did, we have to own it 100%. We don't have to feel bad. We don't have to be depressed. That's not the point. We have to own it in a sense that we realize this is 100% wrong, 100% negative. Don't look for excuses. Don't look for justifications. Don't look for the scenarios that might make it make sense. Just realize this has to be fixed. And the moment you do that, that's the rock bottom for that specific character trait and that specific negative action, and you'll be much closer to turning it around into positivity. I would like to conclude. I had a teacher who was a bit of an edgy, out-of-the-box kind of thinker, so I'm not endorsing what I'm about to say, but it was an interesting concept that he told me. I was in a European city studying in a yeshiva, and he was a mentor. He was a mentor to me, and he once was trying to make the point about the ability to transform energy. And he said, I'd rather, you spending all your time in the center city, in that particular city that we were in. So the center city had a lot of bad things going on, morally bad things, not like dangerous things, but just bad things that were spiritually bad. And he said, rather you be spending your whole night doing all these bad things in the center city than laying in bed and just saying you can't be bothered. Because even though technically by laying in bed you're not doing anything wrong, but the fact that you have all this energy that you're putting into the negativity means there's what to work with, and I could transform that energy and we could harness that energy into positivity. But so if you have something wrong in your life or a negative character trait, don't be upset, don't be depressed. Realize that there's energy there that could easily be transformed. Okay, sorry, not easily, but could be transformed into positive energies. So it's a good thing. But the only way you're going to get there is first by acknowledging that it's wrong and it's 100% wrong, and then you'll give yourself that push, that motivation that you need to actually turn it around.